Welcome along everyone to Anthing in Germany for round 3 of the FIA Karting European Championship. The circuit based just 1 hour from Munich, a beautiful location to go racing and a very tricky circuit as well. Lots of elevation changes, a very short lap which you can do in around 41 seconds if you're going to finish in pole position in the OK class. So that's a look at the setting. Being such a tight and twisty track, one thing that played a big part this weekend was tyre degradation. And we had drivers throwing on the new set of tyres that they should be using in the final throughout some of their heats on Saturday and as well as Sunday morning as well. Before we take a look at some of the highlights from Saturday, here's an onboard lap with Hannes Janke.
On board with Hannes Janke at the very tight and twisty Anthing circuit in Germany. We're flat out at 120 kilometres an hour going into turn 1. This a highly physical track where we'll be pulling almost 3 Gs around most corners. Now onto 4 corners which happen in just 10 seconds. It's 2 left-handers to kick us off before we go into the right-hand hairpin of turn 6, get back across the circuit to open up turn 7. Now time for a quick breath before an important turn 8 which will lead us onto the back straight. We now start to climb back uphill as we head into the chicane. Take as much curb as you can whilst respecting track limits, and that will lead us down towards the final corner. Due to high grip here, we can brake very late and get on the throttle early to complete a lap in under 42 seconds.
As the heats were building to a crescendo at Anthing in the OK Junior category in the CIK FIA European Championships, something had to give, and for 8 drivers it ended far too abruptly. 5 got back on, but 3 were out on the spot. The Estonian Paul Aron had grabbed an early advantage over the Brazilian Gabriel Bortoleto. And as they passed the carnage at turn 1, they were being chased down by British racer Zach O'Sullivan and another Brazilian, Rafael Chaves Camara. But Kirill Small was on the rampage and eventually worked his way up to 3rd position. Not that Zach O'Sullivan was going to take that lying down. Behind them, Laurens van Heupen saw an opportunity to pass Chaves Camara at turn 4. The verdict? Unsuccessful. All this was perfection for Paul Aron, who took the win in the heat for Groups A and C in OK Junior to the delight of his crew. A crucial win for the 3rd weekend of the season ahead of Kirill Small and Gabriel Bortoleto. In OK Senior Heat AC, Hannes Janke led away from Harry Thompson, whilst Niklas Nielsen should be awarded Save of the Season as the back end got away out of turn 1 and somehow he saved the kart from a pirouette. Time and places lost, but pride intact. Behind Janke, Thompson was locked in mortal combat with Zane Maloney, and the Barbadian was definitely on the warpath. Their jostling gave Janke a clean break, and it meant those behind were not so tentative about a decent overtake or two, as Pedro Hiltbrand proved on Alexei Nezov. With Janke looking set for a win, Thompson had shaken off Maloney and left him to deal with the Dutchman Evan Spendler, who was not making life easy. But Hannes Janke on home soil was determined to dominate in style. Spendler made his bid for 3rd position in the sweepers and grabbed a spot on the podium, only to leave the door wide open for Maloney to take it straight back again. And thanks to resolute defence from the Barbadian, there would never be another chance. Up front, 4 wins out of 4 for Janke capped a sensational day of racing and set him up for a challenge for the big one on Sunday, with Thompson 2nd and Maloney 3rd. When the OK Junior drivers got up on Sunday morning, there'd be one more epic bout before the final, and Paul Aron got ahead of Gabriel Bortoleto early doors. And with the top 7 all on old tyres, it was set to be an intriguing contest. 4 of them would go out of the race together, as Samuli Mursalmi, Jonas Reed, Jin Yuhan and Sami Megatunev turned the hairpin into a car park. Bortoleto was determined to beat Paul Aron and gave him a mountain of pressure throughout. And with Kai Aski close behind as well, it was always going to be tough. But the French ace Hadrian David clearly wanted it just that little bit more, and into the final hairpin grabbed 3rd place away from Aski. But just when it looked like Aski was safe in 4th, somebody else stepped up to the plate. Laurens van Hooipen of the Netherlands had clearly been watching David's move and used exactly the same trick at exactly the same place to pass the Brit as well. And it wouldn't be long before the Dutchman set up David too, and 3rd position was easily his. Aron was unchallenged for the flag in what was proven to be a crucial weekend of the championship for the Estonian ahead of Bortoleto and van Hooipen. Janke had been unbeaten at his home track in the seniors. Could it change in the penultimate race of the weekend? Through turn 1, clearly no, as first Lorenzo Travasanuto, then Dexter Patterson tried to overhaul him, the Brit slotting ahead of the Italian to set off after the German. His 2nd place wouldn't last long, as the Italian stormed back past at the first gap available. Elsewhere, Luca Maisch and Ayrton Fonseca were making moves too on Mattia Michelotto, although Fonseca wouldn't be fortunate enough to finish the race. But the man who would emerge behind Hannes Janke in the final reckoning would be his countryman and fastest man of the race, Marius Zug, ahead of the Italian Travasanuto. The stage was therefore set for an epic showdown. Could anybody beat Hannes Janke at Anthing?
So after 5 grueling heats, it was time to go racing in the final, of course, being our 3rd of 4 rounds. Whoever leaves here the championship leader could have one hand on the trophy going into SA. So this was a big deal going into the 22-lap final. Starting from pole position would be Gabriel Bortoleto. Hadrian David would be alongside him. Row 2 would be Paul Aron, well in the championship fight with Luca Griggs to the outside of row 2. And row 3 was our championship leader, Gabriele Mini. Over to our commentator, Jake Sanson.
Gabriel Bortoleto took an early advantage from pole position for the OK Junior final at the CIK FIA European Championships at Anthing in Germany, with Hadrian David of France squeezed down to 3rd behind the fast-launching Estonian Paul Aron. It would be the British pair of Luca Griggs and Kai Aski who'd slot themselves neatly in behind, with the Italian driver Gabriele Mini in 6th, as well as Cabaret of France and Kirill Smol of Russia in pursuit. It was a clean first lap, but Griggs wanted to make a move, and halfway round lap 1, he made his bid for 3rd and passed Hadrian David through the S's. But that was nothing compared to the audacious move for the lead just a few corners later of Paul Aron, as he caught Bortoleto napping at the final hairpin and charged forward. The Estonian was now in front, with very little the Brazilian could do about it. The leading 7 karts were able to break clear, when the rest of the field stood on a long, high-octane train. Impatience meant that Josh Dufek was eager to make up ground and made a brilliant pass to move up to 9th. Ahead of them, Mini and Aski were now being challenged by Russian star Kirill Smol, having now dealt with Cabaret and left him in the train of karts behind. Aron and Bortoleto had now started to clear off ahead, but Luca Griggs was fired up for a victory. And just when it looked like the leading pair would disappear, Griggs decided he had other ideas. Mini was still pressurising Hadrian David, who simply couldn't shake off the Italian. It was all shaping up to be a very exciting race. The laps ticked away, and it would be Estonia, Brazil and Great Britain up front, as Paul Aron, Gabriel Bortoleto and Luca Griggs continued to trade fastest sector times and worked in a triumvirate to ensure their names would be the only 3 in contention for silverware. Behind the 7 men up front, Delano van 't Hoff and Zach O'Sullivan had now moved into the top 10 ahead of Josh Dufek, and they were not done yet. At this point, Aron unlocked more of his speed and stretched out a gap, leaving Bortoleto to cope with the increasing speed of Luca Griggs. The Brit was now swarming all over the Brazilian like a bad habit, and it was only a matter of time before he would try a move, something Bortoleto knew only too well. Increasingly expecting an overtake, he was determined to ensure he never gave an inch. But that played right into Luca's hands as the young Brit waited until Bortoleto was least expecting it, and masterfully caught him out in the first right-hander of the lap. Job done. For now. Bad news for Bortoleto with the season finale at Essay in France very much on his mind, and the Frenchman Hadrian David sensing a chance of the top 3 motivating him to close in. Much to Bortoleto's dismay, not only was Luca Griggs staying in front and even threatening to extend the gap, but David had brought the Italian Gabriele Mini for support, and now both of them were chasing him, causing the Brazilians some anguish. The mission was clear: stay calm and focused. But by this point, Mini had had enough of playing second fiddle and charged for 4th position. And with a championship challenge on the line, it couldn't have been better time for the Italian. In what was proving to be a fantastic final, only 2 men had fallen by the wayside: Conrad Lawson and Victor Bernier. The other 32 would all reach the flag, but up front, Paul Aron appeared to be in command and under no pressure at all. Dramatically, Gabriele Mini would drop back, and things were about to get interesting for Hadrian David for all the wrong reasons, as now the Russian Kirill Small was lining him up for an overtake, and with Small hoping for a strong finish, it was time to up the tempo. The top 3 were now finally settling in for a smooth run to the flag, with Paul Aron nicely ahead of Luca Griggs, who had seen off the challenge of Gabriel Bortoleto, with the Estonian, British and Brazilian flags already being prepared for the podium. And in the closing stages, they made sure of it, with Paul Aron taking a crucial victory with 1 round of the championship still to go in France on August the 5th. His 2nd win of the season, almost certainly his most important, ahead of Luca Griggs and Gabriel Bortoleto. Small grabbed 4th on the last lap from Hadrian David, with Gabriele Mini dramatically finishing down in 15th to set up a title showdown at Essay in August.
After PF, I really wanted to drive again because I wanted to redeem myself. I don't know, it's just something with me that if I do bad, I just want to drive again straight away to fix it. So I was really hoping forward to this weekend, and I did quite good in the German Championship as well, so I had a bit of confidence. In the end, I didn't feel quite tired, but I think mentally I was really quite tired, and my hands and legs didn't want to do exactly what I wanted them to do. But I think, yeah, the main key to the victory was just to stay confident and stay calm, not make any mistakes, and just try to build as big as I can.
Obviously, the feeling's great to come on the podium in the European Championship. I think it was really good, like how the positions we were in the race. I think we were a bit lucky with that, but I think also a couple of things I managed to do well, which put me in 2nd place.
So next up then, it was time for the OK class, and starting on pole position on home soil with Hannes Janke. The 10 points he took from doing that gave him the championship lead by 1 point ahead of Pedro Hilbrand, who was starting all the way down in 13th place. Alongside Hannes on the front row was Lorenzo Trevisanuto. As they say in racing, it's not over until that checkered flag falls, and just before that did, there was a controversial moment in the race which had a lot of people scratching their heads. Over to Jake Sanson to talk you through the events.
On his home track of Anthing in Germany, Hannes Janker set off from pole position in the OK final of the third round of the CIK FIA European Championships. But it was the Italian Lorenzo Travassanuto who grabbed the lead at the first hairpin. The Barbadian ace Zane Maloney almost seized second place, but Janker was too strong and held on by a thread. Travassanuto was determined to make amends for his technical infringement in Great Britain and was focused on the win to put his championship hopes back on track. Behind his rivals Janker and Maloney, Finnish star Juho Valtonen was being pressured by British Red Bull young gun Harry Thompson and Roman Stanek of the Czech Republic. The short nature of the Anthing circuit meant that with so much at stake in the 26-lap finale, the first lap passed without incident. But as Janker continued to pressure Travassanuto out front, there was still a very long way to go. The first man to make a move was Harry Thompson, one of those drivers favouring the new Nassau panel. He moved up to fourth place just behind Zane Maloney. Valtonen was left in the clutches of the Spanish ace David Vidales. Two men were surprisingly off the pace in the early stages, namely Pedro Hiltbrand, the Spaniard only just staying in touch to chase after the top 10, and the reigning world champion Danny Curl, who'd been struggling all weekend. It wouldn't be long after this that the race's first casualty would come, from Noah Millell, a sad end after the Swede had started the final in 14th. Thompson had good pace and was able to run with Maloney as the rest of the field started falling behind, giving Travassanuto, Janker, Maloney and Thompson a clear advantage over the rest. And as lap after lap went by, the gap steadily increased little by little. The most exciting prospect ever to come out of Barbados, Zane Maloney was putting on a grand demonstration of his talent as he took chunks out of Janker's advantage with a bid for second position looking ominous. Into the final hairpin, he struck gold with a bold move. Despite it coming late into the apex, he held the door firmly shut, with the pressure now on the local favourite Hannes Janker to get by before Harry Thompson made his own bid for the podium. Behind the three-way battle for fifth between Valtonen, Stanek and Vidales, three more were joining in, as the Dutchman on the Birolart chassis, Martin Kramers, was holding off the Brit Danny Curl and his fellow Birolart runner, the Italian Luigi Coluccio, and it wouldn't be long before Coluccio got past Curl and started pulling away. A tiny mistake cost Martin Kramers dearly, as first Coluccio, then the struggling Stanek made their way by, and only momentum prevented the Italian Andrea Rosso to slot his CRG machine through in unison. And the next man in line was the Spaniard Pedro Hiltbrand, getting dangerously close at the tail end of the queue. No wonder Rosso was eager to draw clear. It wouldn't be long before the leading three edged out a sizable margin over Thompson to ease the pressure at the halfway mark. But as they started to lose the Brit behind them, the race leader Travassanuto was certainly not looking as dominant as he had been at PF International a few weeks before. Crucially though, their bid to close up was not quite as effective as they needed it to be for the time being. Having worked his way up from 11th on the grid, Coluccio made his intentions abundantly clear as he closed up on the Finn Juho Valtonen. It looked like their battle would only see the victor finishing as high as 6th position, as Vidales was now in a good rhythm ahead of them and setting his own sights on Thompson in 4th. But the Italian was not about to give up. There would be more tight battles further back as Hiltbrand made his way ahead of Andrea Rosso, and then the cosmic chassis of Roman Stanek delivered the goods at the right moment to see the Czech ace get by too. But Rosso was not going to be denied, and he lunged straight back into position, eager to follow his CRG compatriot. But then Travassanuto found an extra gear or two and set off into the distance. To compound matters for Maloney, he would then be caught once more by Hannes Janker, who was obviously using his superior knowledge of the Anthing circuit to his best advantage. When the move presented itself, Janker wasn't about to beg for a second invitation. He sided his way to second place and made sure he would settle in for the chase after the Italian in the lead. Once past the Barbadian, he started to chip away at the leader, but it was starting to look just a little out of reach. Elsewhere, three men would end their race before the checkered flag, with British stars Dexter Patterson and Chris Lullum retiring with 8 laps to go, and Dutch racer Glenn van Berlo agonisingly close with just 3 laps remaining. But the biggest drama was saved till the bitter end. Rosberg Racing driver Lorenzo Travassanuto had done everything right and more than made up for his exclusion at Great Britain. and this would be a commanding performance to put him right back in the title hunt. But rather incredibly, complacency set in, and as he cruised to the end of the lap, he rounded the final turn and knew he had won a brilliant race, easing off the power. And tragically, just as Bjorn Verdheim had done at Monaco in 2003 in Formula 3000, his celebrations were painfully premature, as the German hero Hannes Janke swept around the outside flat on the throttle and snatched the victory away by a mere 0.163 of a second. The German fans were elated and the paddock dumbfounded at how Travis Zanuto could throw it all away at the final 200 metres of a thrilling encounter. And now he'd have to explain to F1 world champion and team boss Nico Rosberg how it all happened.
It was a great weekend for me. All the heats were really good. Also the final was hard. I fought it until the end. In the end we are one team, even we have different colors. Yeah, we are Republic, we are one. That's all I say about that. For me, I really didn't know. I just spent my race. I was more focused on Maloney. It was difficult to pass him. We all three were on the limit. I think, yeah, we three were clear as the fastest. Yeah, as I said, I was just focused on Maloney, and that was my target to pass him, and I was happy to get it.
Finally, we managed to get some points in this championship. It hasn't been easy for me. I mean, PFI could have been also very good for me, but at the end, it's good for my own confidence. It's good for the team to prove that we're always there. It's the thing I had to do for the team. I think it was correct. My chances with the championship were gone from the last round, so I think it was just the right thing to do.
Yeah, I'm happy. Could have been first, but I think we did a good job today. Start went very well, got up to third, then passed Hannes, and was going all good. Tires started to go off a little bit, started to fade, and then my radiator broke, snapped in half, and water was leaking, so I don't think first was a possibility today. Lorenzo and Janke drove very well, so I'm pretty happy with third, yeah.
It's a very good result for Paul. Drove an immense race in the final. It was almost robotic, you know. If you look at the lap times and everything in the final, he was just very, very consistent and just pulled a nice gap and a great drive from him. Well, we went 4 new for the final, so we saved 4 tyres for the final and used only 4 for all of the heats and the qualification. That obviously worked for us with our setup and our chassis and our.
It's difficult, very difficult to manage the tire. This track is very aggressive on the tire. You have to manage the tire from the first lap to the end. You can't push very hard from the beginning, then it's not easy. Very tough season, especially on the tire manage. It's a very difficult tire to manage. The tire is good, but to manage the tire during the race is not easy. When we saw the heat in OK class, especially after 3 heats, you start to see big difference when people put a new tire or something, because it's very difficult. You consume the degradation of the tire is very high. This track more than other track, but all the track make trouble for keep the tire and performance well.
So our questions were finally answered in the press conferences, and with Hannes Janke being handed that victory, he now has a healthy championship lead over Pedro Hilbrand going into SA at the last round. Also in a good championship lead is Paul Aron, who leads Gabriele Mini. So we have 2 drivers in the lead of the championship with a lot of space behind them. However, anything can happen come that last round. Make sure you join us on the 5th of August from SA in France. Thank you for watching.